Exes and Tea podcast fans. Hi, guys. I'm really excited to be here with you today. And I'm really excited because you guys actually have an opportunity to see my face. Hello. And automatically, right off the bat, you guys, we have a guest with us today. We have Lavendar with us. I'm so excited to have her and have an opportunity to discuss more of the wonderful world that is Amway worldwide and all the different lines of affiliation, lines of sponsorship, etc. So with that being said, you guys, let's talk about the disclaimer because myself, my guest, we're not trying to get sued, okay? So anybody that we're going to be speaking about today, we're going to be changing names. We're going to be using initials. We're not going to be naming these people. Anybody that I name will be myself personally if I name anybody. But either way, there is no way, shape, or form defaming anybody. Okay, we're here to share stories, opinions based on personal experiences, right? We're allowed to talk about what happened. We're allowed to share information that we have based on what we know, what we've been through. And is it always favorable? No, it's not. But at the same time, if you're a grown person, you can make whatever decision you want. If you want to join these groups, go right ahead. I can't stop you, but I would recommend you listen to somebody like Lavendar who has been through these types of organizations before and at least have a broader scope of what you're going to be entering into. So with that being said, thank you so much, Lavendar. I am so excited to have you here.
Yay, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, I am really excited because you are a content creator yourself. You are a singer. You have so much going on. And I guess first I have to ask, like, you're how long out of the business?
Almost exactly a year. In like a few days, it'll be exactly a year.
Wow. So in that year's worth of time, how much have you been able to do versus when you were involved in this organization?
So much. It's actually crazy. Like the amount that I've gotten done, like with my actual life goals, like I've had so much more momentum, even with like the whole stagnation of like unpacking my trauma and having my little like analysis paralysis right after I got out. Like I spent the first like 6 months after I got out just in analysis paralysis, being like, how do I be another human, like a normal human? Where do I go from here? Like what do I even do? What are the next steps to do anything in life, right? But like even with that, I still have gotten so much more done outside of the business than I was ever able to get done in like within my business while I was in it. Like getting a song out versus recruiting someone, dude. It takes way longer to recruit someone and get them to stay in. It's wild.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The way that they make it sound, right? It's like, oh my gosh, it's so easy. Like anybody can do it. But it's like, no, you're
Yeah.
working with people. Nobody wants to stay in this. Like it is,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Oh my God, recruiting people sucks. But
Yeah.
I love that you're able to actually do all of these amazing things. And you've kind of started going down the advocacy route, sharing your story. What do you feel like is the most important part about sharing your story and why you want to continue getting it out there?
Because I feel like the reason for my existence is to protect those who can't protect themselves. And like you said at the beginning, everyone out there, like we're grown adults, right? Well, some people aren't even who are getting recruited to these things, unfortunately. But for the most part, I mean, we're all individual human beings, is the point, right? You know, people can do whatever it is they want. If someone's gonna join, there's nothing I can do or say to talk them out of that if they've made up their mind. I know because that was me once. But if I can like make a difference in any way, whether that's, you know, someone sends this to their relative who's so indoctrinated and it plants a seed, and then 10 years later they remember this video and they realize that my story sounds like theirs and they get out. Or even if it's just someone who is already in it and they feel crazy about what happened to them until they hear my story and then they realize they're not crazy and someone understands. Like I just want people to know that like they're not alone. And like I want to be able to, like, if there's even a chance that I can protect someone from falling prey to being exploited in this way by bad people, then I want to save that person however many years of their life that they would have wasted in something that isn't serving their purpose or who they are or their happiness. I like or yeah, and just being an emotional support too to people who have already been traumatized by these things. Like just yeah, I just want to make a difference.
I love your passion. I really do. Like you can feel just how passionate you are about this topic because it's true, right? Like you went through quite a bit when you were a part of something that seemed so wholesome and so good at first. And then unfortunately, as we all do, well, hopefully everybody does, but we learn the truth. We learn what has been going on, and that's so much to process. And I love that you're sharing that because it is hard to share these stories sometimes. Like, it's really challenging to say I was in a cult. Like, who actually wants to say, yeah, that was me. I was in a cult. But I love the fact that we're sharing stories because hopefully it gets people more comfortable with the willingness to share and admit and talk about, like, it's okay. Like, nobody is above a cult. I do not believe that there is a single person on this planet who is above getting involved in something like this, especially if you're caught in a moment of vulnerability. So on that note, how on earth did you get dragged into Worldwide the same way a lot of us did?
I was in a really vulnerable place in my life. I was going through, well, processing a lot over the last few couple of years. I had just graduated high school and I didn't really know what I like wanted to do with my life. I was still kind of processing the trauma of like leaving the Mormon church, which I was a part of for 14 years. And then and then right after leaving, I had this huge breakthrough where I finally felt like I found myself for the first time. And then I ended up dating this guy who kind of like pressured me to go back into the Mormon church and gave me this ultimatum. And so I ended up obviously making the wrong decision and, trying to force myself back into that box that I didn't fit into. And then the guy left, of course, broke my heart. So then I had the heartbreak of that, plus like, this whole like feeling like I lost myself again when I thought that like I was finally whole. And so I was just like really trying to find myself again and connect back to my actual beliefs and my actual spirituality and, what served me and made me happy. And I had just graduated high school. It was my dream to be a famous singer songwriter, but the older I got, the more unrealistic that seemed to me. And so I just didn't even want to try because I was like, well, what sets me apart? I'm just another blonde girl with an acoustic guitar who sings like Taylor Swift, right? Like that's so common nowadays. Like what do I have, right? And so I was just lost and I was just hoping for anything, the right answer to come along to give me some type of clarity or direction of where my life was supposed to go from here. So I ended up working at this metaphysical crystal shop. Don't judge me, viewers, because that's kind of along the lines of my beliefs. I identified as Wiccan at the time, and that was like my what felt right to me. And I still do have a lot of those same beliefs, just under a different blueprint, I guess. But so I found my way back to this crystal shop and was like, well, if I'm working in a place that's surrounded by, all this witchy woo-woo stuff, and maybe I'll start to feel more connected to that again. And I didn't. I tried to fill the void with like buying crystals and tarot decks and, the commercialism side of it, which obviously didn't work. And then I ended up meeting this girl who came in as a customer there and would buy crystals pretty frequently. And she was actually the person who introduced me to Worldwide. We became friends first. We exchanged numbers and started calling on a regular basis. And then one day I was just opening up to her because I was having a really hard day, just being like, I don't know what to do with my life. Like, I feel like I'm failing my child self who thought I was going to grow up to be this amazing, cool person who changes the world. And I feel like I'm failing her. I feel like my life is going nowhere and I don't know what to do. I suck with finances. I suck with my spiritual life. I don't know who I am. And I feel like this isn't how my life was supposed to look. And she kind of empathized with me and was like, I know exactly how you feel. I've been there in my life before. But I actually met this amazing couple who introduced me to a life-changing opportunity, and they're helping me with my finances and helping me kind of get my life back on track. I don't know if it would help you at all, but if there's the chance that it could help, I would be willing to talk to them for you and, let them know what you're going through and see if they'd be willing to help you out since you're a friend of mine. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. How much do they charge? And she was like, well, they actually do this for free out of the kindness of their heart, which is why they're kind of
Yeah.
picky about who they extend their hand to in this way. But so I can't promise anything, but I'll try my best to get a hold of them for you. And I was like, okay, sweet. I didn't think anything of it. I totally forgot about this because when she said, I can't promise anything, I was like, well, it probably won't happen. And I don't know how much of a difference it would make anyway. But, it's out there. I put it out into the universe at least. And then, lo and behold, a couple days later, she calls me and says that they were interested in helping me out. And then from there, she kind of took me through the whole recruitment process to getting in business, and then later I found out it was worldwide. But I don't know if you want me to tell the whole long story.
No, I love this. This is so good because like I love, first of all, we love our crystal people here. My best friend is Wiccan, and she has taught me so much that I didn't know. I think that there's so much that can, so much positive that can come from believing in the universe, the elements and
Mm-hmm.
all of these different things, which if you guys are out there and you're unfamiliar, there is nothing demonic. The devil is not a thing in witchcraft, just so
Yeah.
you guys are aware. Like that's such a big misconception. But the fact that like you finally found something for yourself and then this stupid boy, guy, whatever boy,
Mm-hmm.
decides that you know you need to fit into this box. And it sounds like that was already a familiar environment to return to. So you did, which is okay. We've all been there. And then, you know, you try to go back to what was passionate, and then you're having a struggle, and then the stars align. The crystals called. You found why, which is ironic now to I'm sure see it, but I know it comes full circle. So obviously we love the crystals. They didn't do anything wrong. But you're going through a process now. And how long was your process? And about how long through this process did you finally hear the words Amway and worldwide?
It was probably like I think like a 6 week process because we would meet like once a week for 6 weeks. Um, and then it wasn't until the very last meeting that I heard the name Amway and the name Worldwide. So
Wow, 6 weeks.
yeah.
Six, that's a long time. And of course, they're so good at what they do. I love that you gave the dialogue that you were told because you guys verbatim, that's exactly what they say.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, I can't promise you anything, which is, you know, they're not saying they can do something and they're alluding to the fact that they have these successful friends. They
Mhm.
get to know you and they speak to you on your level. They're not going to come up to you straight away and be like, hey, if they do, they're obviously not, they haven't been in for long enough. But a very good IBO will get to know you. They'll speak to you on your level. They will say the way that they know you want to hear it. That I have these friends. And let's understand too, you guys, that we've been there. I have absolutely been that person who genuinely thought I was offering somebody the greatest gift in the world. And so I think that we can have a little bit of empathy for people who get other people involved, knowing that they truly believe that this is actually the most beneficial, the way that they're going to save you. Obviously, we know different now. But just, I want to let everybody know who hasn't been involved in something like this that it's hard to look at people who get people involved as like bad people. A lot of the bad comes from the top. I hate my sponsor though. I love an opportunity to say that I fucking hate him because he's a
Mhm.
horrible person. But with that, I did just want to add that in there. And it's really frustrating too that it's a grooming process, let's be real.
Yeah.
And they're becoming best friends with you. And it isn't until I'm sure you're like super excited and so enthralled by these people that they're like, oh, it's Amway. So had you heard of Amway before you heard it from them?
No, which I think was something that probably helped get me in. I'm sure if I had heard of it beforehand, I would be a little bit deterred. But they have a whole speech for the people who have heard of it before, and so they'll do that whole spiel. But I think it was like I was easier to mold because I didn't have any of that previous background. And one of the things that they actually ask you in your first or second meeting in the recruitment process is they ask you, have you ever heard of network marketing? And if your answer is no, then they actually tell you, okay, sweet, would you be willing to not look up anything about it, because the way that we do it is a totally different way from the way that everyone else does it. So would you be willing to, like, if you know, or if you have heard of it, would you be willing to wipe the slate clean and, look at it from a totally different angle and like have an open mind while learning from us, because the way that we do it is completely different than the way that you've heard of. And so that's one of the things that they say in preface early on is like, if you know anything about this, forget what you knew about it, because this is not the same thing that you know.
Wow, that's smooth. That's so good. Like
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
right?
It's so good. It sounds legit. It sounds like, okay, like these people are being real with me up front. They sprinkle in a little bit of truth. And honestly, they do things a little bit differently there. They do. They're not lying. But what we learn later is a lot of it is immoral. And they'll say too, and maybe it might be line of sponsorship specific, but they would say, you know, I'm not going to do anything that breaks man's laws, God's laws, or is that is ethical or immoral, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that sounds great. These are people who sound like they have the right idea. They're not going to con me. The hard part is that they are telling you not to do research, which goes against who we are as humans, the curiosity. But again, they are so good at wording it that it's like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I will give you a chance. Like,
Yeah.
what's the worst thing that could happen, right? Obviously, we know now. But when you're looking, I've been there. I didn't care to look it up. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like somebody on Reddit's not going to be able to tell me the truth. And of course, of course we know now, but dad, they're so good. And how did your family feel about you being involved with Amway? Had they heard of it before?
So the night of that first board plan meeting, the time that they first name dropped Amway and Worldwide, that was the first time I'd ever heard of that. I went home to my parents after that meeting and I was like, guess what just happened to me? I'm so excited. My life is about to change. And I was just like gushing to them about it. And they started asking me, they were like, oh, like what's going on? And I was like telling them, I was like, I'm gonna get financially free. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna retire young. And my dad just goes, whoa, stop right there. What's the name of the company? And I kind of like was like a little bashful. I was like, oh, well, it's Amway, but, and they were like, yeah, that's what, stop right there. Like there it is, and my dad was like, hey, well, this couple that you supposedly met is the same couple that approached me on the street when I was your age. And I was like, okay, but like, things have changed. Like, I know that they have this reputation, but like things have changed. And, we don't take anything away from the people in our downline. Like, Amway just pays us extra. Like, it's totally different than the Amway that you know about. And they were like, oh, okay, I guess they do it differently than when we were kids. And they kind of like bought into that, which probably is true in some ways, but it's still the same, same pig, different makeup, right?
Yeah.
It's the same, monster in a different disguise. It's not like its intentions are the same, whether or not they do things slightly different. Um, they're just different formulas for the same outcome of disaster. So yeah, but I kind
Yeah.
of like disarmed them in that way because right off the bat in that meeting, they told us, they're like, by the way, this is different than when your mom did it when she was a kid. They would, tell us all the
Yes.
things, everything that you're about to be told. Here's debunking that. We're going to debunk everything that you might hear when you come home tonight and tell whoever about this. So I already knew what to say.
Yep. Yep, exactly. It's almost within the first like 20 minutes of a meeting is they will prepare you to already respond to your people. Like they're
Mhm.
planting that seed of doubt for you, for the people that you know, which is so crazy. But then you're like, oh my God, they were right. They predetermined, they knew what was going to happen. And then it's like, okay, maybe I can trust these people. Maybe it is different, because we don't know different. I wasn't there in the 60s, 70s, 90s when they were quote selling soap door to door. And I remember back in the day, the club owner would call it the four eras because they never talked about the Quick Start era. Quick Start was like pushed to the side. Nobody talked about it. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Quick Start era, the basic knowledge that I have about it is that Amway had this terrible reputation and then they were trying to go online. So they created this other separate entity called Quickstar, which was only available in the US. Amway was still a thing, but it was outside of the US. So when they were recruiting people, they would say, no, it's not Amway because it's not available here. So they had Quickstar. Quickstar was a shit show and they buried it. They didn't talk about it. I'm pretty sure Quickstar also went through a lawsuit. If you guys are out there and you're like really knowledgeable in this Quickstar era, please reach out. I would love to know because it's such an interesting thing. But yeah, they don't talk about it. So they would talk about like the four eras and make it sound like, oh, well, we do things fancy and different now. But like you were saying, it's literally the exact same thing. It just looks a little different now. And if you guys haven't already, check out my episode with the anti-MLM kid. Check out her TikTok. She is the child of an Amway couple. And the way she talks about it is literally the same. And her parents have been in for 50 years. So if like 30 years ago, it was the same concept. Now we just have apps and it's all digital. The manipulation is still the same. But wow, okay, so your parents were already like, okay, we're aware of this company. We know about it, but you were able to kind of make them feel a little bit better. Were
Yeah.
they like throughout your time in Amway, were they constantly supportive of you, or did they have some skepticisms and try to give you some pushback?
No, I think they were really supportive the entire time, but it wasn't always like genuine. I think a lot of times like they saw how indoctrinated I was, and I genuinely think they were afraid of losing the relationship with me and the connection with me because of the way that I talked about it and the way that, I like I aggressively talked about it and the way that I would like cut off friends who disagreed with me or who wouldn't support my business or whatever it was. And how awfully I talked about the IBOs who would quit. Like, oh my God, when my coach Amber quit, I was ruthless, dude. I came home talking smack and I was like, they're so dumb. Like they just committed financial suicide. Like their kids should be like their kids aren't gonna be raised by they're gonna be raised by quitters. Their kids aren't gonna know how to succeed. Like they're gonna think it's okay to give up on your dreams. Like I was just horrible. And like I think that they saw that and I don't think they blamed me either, which bless their hearts. They were so like quiet even though like on the inside their heads were screaming as they were watching me like destroy myself and like destroy my connections and destroy my relationships and my mental health and like starve myself and not shower, not sleep. Like they were watching me just decline, but they were so supportive, and I think it was because they just genuinely didn't want to lose me. I think that they wanted to have at least some influence over me in any way, and they didn't want to lose the relationship with me by pushing against me because I've always been very rebellious too and very like headstrong in the sense of like if I'm doing something that I'm passionate about and I've made my mind up about it, it doesn't matter what advice my parents give me. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, okay, and like do it anyway. And they've learned that over time. And so they knew nothing they could say would change my mind anyway. And they were like, if even her closest friends can't change her mind about this, then we're just gonna have to smile and nod until she figures it out. And so they were so patient and so like they were supported. They bought a ton of my products whether they were good or not, and they just kind of like bit their tongue until the very end. And then when I left, they were like, oh my God, thank God, we were so worried about you, we're so glad you figured it out. But yeah, they didn't say anything the entire time. They just kind of smiled and nodded.
Yeah. Wow. I love that though, because they wanted to preserve their relationship and
Mm-hmm.
they were very careful with how they were going to respond to things. And I really do. I love that because yes, it's sad that there are people out there who don't have relationships with their family members as a result of this business. And it's really frustrating because you have like a grandparents who've never met their grandkids because these people are so indoctrinated by worldwide that they truly believe that their family who are quote negative, they are a bad influence. You don't need to be around that negativity. And then they, of course, foster this toxic positive environment where you can't be real ever. And so, yeah, they snip, snip, snip. Everybody in the US has heard the audio from the crown guy, the snip, snip audio. And that's exactly what it is that he is proudly admitting that he was willing to cut off for her, his wife's family, and encouraging anybody else to do the same. It's gross. But again, I love that you were able to stay close with your family. And I mean, hey, if you're having a good relationship with your parents, you're now involved in this organization that, by all accounts, sounds great. I'm guessing you had a very good experience at first. What was your honeymoon phase like, and about how long do you think it lasted?
My honeymoon phase probably lasted the entire like first year. It was really, really long. I was so grateful for what I thought this was. Like I remember I don't know if you or the viewers are familiar with the app Communicate. I'm guessing you are.
Yes.
So for the viewers who might not know, Communicate was like our little voicemail app that we would use to send. We were required to send at least one message to our upline a day over voice chat, but you were supposed to tell them like everything. Like you were required to at least send one, but you were encouraged to send like all the time. Like they wanted to know every detail of your life because you had to consult them before you made any major life decision. And so I just remember sending gratitude cates like all the time, and I was like sobbing in these cates. Like I was just like in tears, like, I'm so grateful for you guys, and I can't believe that someone would love me this much to give me this opportunity and to believe in me and to pour into me and, you know, like, want me to succeed free of charge, no ulterior motives, all those things that I thought. And I felt like I finally had a family. Like, I wasn't super close to my family growing up. I was really rebellious, and I was the oldest, so my mom was still kind of like figuring out how to parent, especially since I'm nothing like her. So she was trying to parent me the way that she wanted to be parented, but it was just not working for me. So I really
Yeah.
struggled with having a relationship with my family all my life. I felt like the black sheep. I was the only person who left the church in my family. Like, and you know, I felt like friends always came and went, and like I never really had like a solid group. I just never felt like I found my people, like, of just, you know, who understood me and were on the same page. And so I
Yeah.
felt like I was finally like home, you know? And I was just so
Yeah.
grateful. I was like, this is it. This is my life purpose. I'm finally coming home to this. And, you know, I've always wanted to be a hero. I've always wanted to, you know, protect those who can't protect themselves. And this is my way of doing that. This is my way of being a hero and, you know, extending this opportunity to people who have been praying for it. Like, I could be the
Yeah.
reason that this person changes their life. Um, and so I was just so, so grateful. And I think that pulled me through even when things were so hard, because I would just like tell myself, like, when things got hard, I'd be like, yeah, but at least this is my hard. You know, some people
Yeah.
don't. Some people live in countries where this doesn't exist. Some people will never know what I know. Some people are starving. You know, like, my hard is I have the challenges of getting to be a hero. Like, and then I would just be so grateful for that. I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm so grateful that the worst thing that I'm going through right now is like being afraid to say hi to someone. Like,
Yeah.
I just stayed in this mindset of like, yeah, this is hard, but it's a blessing too. And so like I really shouldn't I don't really don't have anything to complain about at the end of the day. Like, this is just
Yeah.
part of what I was asking for in the first place. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, it does. I love it. It's so it is. I think it's important for people to hear the positives too, because obviously, like, we have so many negatives to talk about, but it wasn't always like that. It was a very fantastic environment to be in. I am so right there with you. I love that you're talking about the gratitude, Kates, too. I don't feel like that's something I've ever talked about before.
Yeah.
If you guys are not familiar, so yeah, we have communicate, which is so interesting to think about now. But we had to send an update every single day. That was a part of being core, change, or remain employed.
Mhm.
Those were the things you had to do every single day. There were like 10 steps. But Kate was one of them, and it got to a point where you really did just want to send the Kate, because you would send multiple at
Yep.
some point. Like, you just get to the point where you're like, I may have sent my daily Kate already, but I'm so happy about this. And it's so true. You do. And you can tell how passionate you were. Like, this was something that it sounds like you were like, no, I can use this to help other people. Like, I do not get the sense that there was any sort of selfishness from you whatsoever. And I love that, because like, and that's where they get people, is the people who have those big hearts, who are like, I've been through some shit. I want to help other people who've been through some shit. Like, I want to help people find their people. And like, I kind of want to cry, because I totally feel where you're coming from, where it's like, I've never had like a sense of community, and
Yeah.
they did. They created that. And honestly, I feel like that's sometimes why it's hard for people to leave, is because, like you talked about before, you're cutting out other people as well. And it's unintentional. It's not like you cut out your best friend of however many years because they're a horrible person. It's because it's almost like demise by a thousand cuts, right? Where it's like, well, my friend has said so many negative things about this, and I can love them from a distance, right? That's what they'll say, is you can love them from a distance, but you need to stay focused on your business. And then all of a sudden, you're living for going to these functions because you have your cross-line friends that you're going to talk about all the happiest things in the world with. Such a great environment. I cannot stress that enough. And through this time, I actually wanted to ask a couple of things, because you were in fairly recently. You
Yeah.
had said you left about a year ago, and there were some things, you guys, that are different. If you guys are like me and are one of the, I guess I can consider myself a little bit of an OG, because it's been about 5, 6 years since I've been involved, and there have been so many changes logistically, which is crazy. So let's talk about the apps for a minute. So from my understanding, what you were telling me is that for the first year, you are not paying for the apps or the functions. Is that right?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. So your first year of all these memberships are free. And also, you cannot go to a function as a guest. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, no, you can't. If you're a guest, you can't go to, well, you can go to the local ones, but not the major ones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which again, if you guys are like me and were in a while ago, that's so crazy. We were always told, get people here, get them, talk about the fact that John Maxwell is speaking. He's an author. People know him. Like, get the guest to the function. When I was involved, it was guests paid for their own tickets. Well, then I guess there was a slight shift where then it was guests no longer have to pay for their tickets. Now guests can't go at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that progression of things, I have obviously we're never going to get the answers, but I have so many questions like, why is that? Something happened that made it to where they can no longer trust people to go unless they are already IBOs. Was that in a way like used as motivation? Like, hey, you need to go through the process. You got to be here. You got to be at this function.
Yeah, actually, they would, like, if there was one coming up, they'd be like, we encourage you to join because this thing is coming up and it's going to be life-changing and we want you to be there. We don't want you to miss this life-changing opportunity.
Wow. Oh, that's so good. Again, it's so good because
Yeah.
then there's an influx of people joining and it's almost speeding up, quote, the
Mm-hmm.
process to get people to these functions because that's
Yeah.
like the biggest thing, right? Do you have your tickets locked in? That's like the number one question, unless obviously you're new.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not paying for the entire first year. What does the conversation look like when they do start talking about what it will look like to pay? Was that something that was told to you upfront, like, hey, your first year is free, but you got to start paying after a whole year?
Yeah, that was just kind of something that was told to us like during the launching process. So we already knew that.
That's good. I love to hear that because
Yeah.
I've actually heard people who had no idea. They're like,
Oh,
I didn't know I had to pay after a year with the way that they were told in their line of sponsorship, which is fucking crazy. But I love that. I'll give them credit where credit is due. When you can be honest, we love it. So through this year, like, that's crazy, especially knowing now that they're getting paid from the tools, which I'm guessing through this time they never told you about.
wait, sorry, say that one more time.
No, it's okay. That they were getting paid from the tools. That's where their
Oh,
money
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
coming from. Was
Yes,
that ever
sorry.
disclosed
Like,
to you?
I was out for a split second.
You're totally fine.
Yeah, no. So they told us that, like, they didn't tell us platinums and above got paid from the tools. They told us that diamonds got paid from the tools. So they were basically, and they kind of used that as motivation too for when we were like, trying to strive for diamond. They were like,
Yeah.
remember, like, once you go diamond, then you get to own a part of this. And so that's why, you shouldn't buy your books from your local bookstore even though they're cheaper. You should buy them from the World Wide website because that's your business. Because one day that's going to be, your piece of the pie. So it's like you're doing your future self a favor. Da 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 da. So it
Wow.
was, yeah, super sketch.
Okay. Wow. But that's good. Like,
Yeah,
that's so
it
good.
is good.
It really is because they never even told us that when I was involved. No idea and no clue. That's crazy. But yes, as we now know, the platinums and above are getting paid by the apps. That's not alleged, that's real. It's also in the terms and conditions for Communicate and the Worldwide app. If you guys are curious, I actually have them. I can post them. But it's a real thing. And not only that, they're getting paid to speak as well, which of course they tell you these so and so, your upline is here by the goodness of their heart, taking time away from their family. They're not out building their wit, they're helping you build your wit. But then it's like, okay, great. And then you find out, oh shit, they really are paid speakers. That's frustrating. But
Yeah.
again, it doesn't surprise me that they're not super open about that. And during this time, so we're not paying for apps. So you're paying for pretty much just Ditto. What was the
Yeah.
Ditto requirement for you?
We had to have 60% VCS. So verified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was the PV amount that you were supposed to have?
I think it was like 350. It was either 3 or 350 uh for a couple, I believe, and then I think for a single it was like 150. I want to say. I think that sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah.
like 350 for a couple, and then it was like 150 for a single.
350 for a couple, which
Yeah.
I guess if you're a couple, right, it's a little bit probably more doable. Like,
Yeah.
so for context, it's like $3 to one PV. So 150 PV is like a lot of fucking money. I remember when I was doing 200 PV, it was like $600 a month on the low end. And you're talking about couples who are paying over $1,000 in Amway products. So when you were involved, I'm in this BCS started, that's new.
Mhm.
How did they preach sales? How did they go about telling you how to sell your products? And was that something that they advocated for, was selling all of that PV?
No, so it's funny you mentioned that. This is one of my big things about them. So this is fun. They basically were like, don't worry about it. Like, sell what you can, do what you can, but don't focus on selling anything. Like, like obviously it's important, but that's not what's going to grow your business. Your priority needs to be width. Focus on width, and once you have that locked in, then you can start focusing on selling. So sell what you can, but focus on width. But if you can't sell enough by the end of the month to make the PV requirement, then just, take a granola bar from your box of granola bars that you ordered, give it to your mom, happy birthday. and if and then if she takes it and she eats that, then you can mark that off as she bought the entire box. And so if you can't sell it, then basically fake it is what they would say. Allegedly. Not
Yeah,
allegedly. Yeah.
based on personal experiences, this is like legit. Nope, absolutely. This is that, yeah, that checks out. Holy shit. Which is so crazy because they give these PV requirements because they know what will get a person to platinum quicker. If you
Mhm.
guys are not familiar, there are worldwide little teeny tiny recognitions that literally mean nothing
Yep.
other than you get a little title when you're in worldwide. And then there are actually Amway recognized pin levels, which is platinum is the very first one.
Mhm.
Most people do not make it to that level. They
Mhm.
always say like, oh, if you build it to a double eagle ship, which is the worldwide term, it's 12 people. So you have eagle,
Mhm.
6, double eagle, 12, right? And
Mhm.
then they say, well, and it'll just happen like that, because platinum is a PV requirement specific. It is
Mhm.
7,500 PV. That is a platinum level. And the expectation is that you are going to qualify as a platinum every single month for 12 months straight. Once you do that, you are called a Q12, and now you are open to incentives like Achievers, which is a trip that Amway pays for the platinums. Platinum is essentially like the real first step, but they sprinkle in a little bit of hope here and there to basically make you feel like you're doing something that you're not.
Yeah.
Um, and I say that just because like when you're involved, it really does feel like, oh, I have to go Eagle. Well, what is
Mhm.
Eagle really? Nothing. It means you get to sit on the floor at a function. By floor, I mean like there's tables in an
Yeah.
arena. If you guys can kind of picture that. But outside of that, it's meaningless. So they create these PV amounts because they want you to qualify your platinums. And so realistically, what we are being told in personal experiences in these rooms, this is what we are being told. This is our experience. Okay. Now, is this like what's happening on a grand scale? I don't know. I can't say that. I can say that a lot of people have similar experiences. But what I can say is that I have personally been preached to, and it sounds like you very similar, that you buy your PV
Mhm.
and you can by a technicality say, oh, it was somebody else. And that's why
Yeah.
what's really interesting is we didn't have this verified customer sale thing when I was involved. We could just go in and create a receipt and they would say, sell it to your mom, sell it to your goldfish, doesn't matter, right? Just
Yep.
you are consuming it, you are also the customer. Your first circle is 200 PV. If you can sell anything outside of that, great, but we are not a sales business, is what they would say. And so it's
Yep.
really interesting that they're telling you to focus on your recruitment and then like
Mhm.
essentially buy your PV.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Did you like meet your ditto requirements every month? And was that creating a financial hardship for you?
I was meeting them by technicality. Like, I mean, I was meeting the ditto requirements, but I wasn't like selling them, like I was selling them.
Yeah.
So I wasn't actually really selling products at all. I was like, there was a couple times here and there that I did, but I did meet the actual like ditto requirement itself every month. And I mean, it depends on the job that I had. Like, I switched jobs around a lot while I was in Worldwide, trying to find like the best thing to support my business building. At some point, I ended up at a factory where I was I was working like 12-hour shifts, which they didn't love, but like I was making a ton of money. And so I actually went over my requirement. At some point, I was doing the 350 PV instead of the 150 PV.
Wow.
Spending like anything left over after, which I didn't have bills because I had moved back into my mom's house at this point to, better support my business. So I had no rent, I had no car payments, I didn't have anything like that. I had
Yeah.
zero bills, and I was just making tons of money from this job. And so I literally spent almost my entire paycheck. Like, I mean, I would buy my own groceries because I'm vegan and the rest of my family isn't. So I would buy my own groceries, which for me at the time was like $50 a month. So outside of that, and then like the occasional like, coffee or whatever for, if I wanted to spoil myself, I don't know, then I would, and again, I wasn't going to like movies or anything. I wasn't spending money on normal people things. I wasn't doing activities because they told me not to. So almost my entire paycheck every single month just went to my Ditto. And I had so much product, I didn't even know what to do with it, even after I gave half of it away. Like, it was kind of wild.
Wow. Wow. That's like thousands of
Yeah,
dollars in
thousands.
product, you guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot.
Mhm.
But also, their products are super fucking expensive. So it's
Yeah.
not as much as you guys think, but it's still a
No.
lot. Like,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of money. And
It
I
is.
can imagine when you're going above and beyond, were you receiving like just all of the accolades? Like, look at Lavendar. She's out here doing it. Why can't you? Kind of a thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of what prolonged my honeymoon phase for so long too, was because like every time it got really rough for me mentally, I would just like, because I was going so above and beyond and I was just straining myself to like do more than I even needed to. Like every time I would go back to that board plan setting, J and K, my upline emeralds, would like just sit there and praise me like the entire meeting. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we love Lavendar. Everyone should be more like Lavendar. Lavendar's going platinum next. We're so proud of her. I see myself in her. I learn from her and I'm the mentor. Like I wish like I look up to her and I wish I was more like her even though I'm ahead of her in rank. Like just in a matter of time she's going to surpass me and I look at all of our platinums at the major functions and I just see her in all of them." And like they would just say all these things constantly and just like gush and gush and gush about me, especially when I was really doing bad mentally and I just was like had one foot out the door. They would just up those accolades and be like, "Oh man, you're like a goddess." Like they would just tell me whatever I needed to hear to get that high and get that buzz and feel like I was important and that I was going to be successful and that I was worthy in the eyes of my upline, especially Jay, because I revered that man like a god. It was so bad. I wanted to be like him so bad. And this is like off topic, but none of the things that he like claimed about himself that made him so great in my eyes were even true anyway, because he's a pathological liar. So he would, make
That's
himself
so
look
sad.
like he's this amazing human being when he wasn't. He wasn't being honest about anything. So, but yeah, that's the long answer.
Wow. Oh no, it's so true. It's so true. And like you said, it felt so good because you're going. I mean, obviously we all go through shit outside of the business, right? And when those things happen, we can't really talk about it there. We have to be
Mhm.
constantly positive. I mean, we
Yeah.
can go negative to our upline, sure, but their answer is always just build your business. It'll all work out in the end. And
Yeah.
again, with that toxic positivity, right? And they're love bombing the shit out of you. And when you're going through it, shit feels good. It feels so good to finally hear from somebody, I am doing well,
Yeah.
and you just want to keep getting it. It's almost like a high. Like, I just want my upline's attention because
One more
we
hit.
all get to that point.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Like, and then you get to go to incentives. It's like you want to be around the association. Guys, do this because then you'll get to go hang out and go to a
Hmm.
party with your upline or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so good. And I empathize so much because again, I get it. And at what point did you start to see red flags in everything that was once so good around you?
It was towards the like the middle-ish endish of my second year. I was like, after I had been doing everything right, going above and beyond for so long, and I was getting all the praise, I was getting all the accolades, but I was looking around me and I was like, these people are telling me I'm about to go platinum, but I'm not. Like, I don't even have an eagle ship. Like I'm doing everything they're asking. I'm building the business. I'm talking to 10 people every single day. I'm dropping the message on 10 people, even if that means staying up until 1 in the morning and harassing strangers at Walmart. Like I'm doing what I need to do. in order to like get the numbers. Like my PV is off the charts. Like my, I don't have a ton of real customers, but like, I'm getting there, and like I'm talking to the right amount of people, because they said for every 10 people you drop the message on, you'll sponsor two. So I was like, okay, perfect. So if I talk to 10 people a day and drop the message on 10 people a day, then I'll start sponsoring two. That's two people every single day that will eventually launch. That wasn't happening like they promised. And I was just really like, it was taking a toll on my health, because I was like, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, like I'm not getting nutrients, I'm not like drinking enough water, like I'm only building this business, that's all I'm doing, like I'm not doing good. And like there reached this point where I was just so depressed, because I put so much pressure on myself too, like that, if I'm doing what they're saying and it's not working, then that means I'm the problem, because that's what they would tell me when I would come to them with these concerns. I'm like, okay, but you said to do that and I am doing that, so why is it not working? And they were like, it's your fault, you're the problem, and something within yourself that you need to heal. You're double-minded. And that's when they started inserting the idea that I needed to give up my music and stop writing songs, which was the only thing keeping me sane at this point, because I was writing songs about how this business was making me feel, and that was the only
Yeah.
thing I could do to make myself feel better. And it wasn't all the time. Like I could crank out a song in like 30 minutes back then. Like if I was feeling strong enough, I could just word vomit and it would just come out right. So like it's not like I was taking a tremendous amount of time to sit and write these songs. And so I think it just had to be that bad for long enough. I had to be like, running ahead of everyone else, but like dragging myself through the mud at the same time, before I finally was like, I just was out of energy. And there came this point, and this was probably like a big changing point for me, was I was so depressed, and this business had made me so suicidal, that I was like, I can't do anything today. Like I can barely get out of bed. And so I literally it was around this time of year last year, it was December, it was like right before I quit. I sat on the same place on the floor. I just laid there for 3 days straight, and I woke up, like I just slept, because I just could not handle being alive. It was so stressful, and I
Yeah.
would feel guilty if I ended my life, because I felt like I had this mission in worldwide and I needed to go diamond or whatever. And you
Yeah.
know Jay was telling me, there's a whole diamond ship of people waiting for you. Like if you die now, then like those people will never, have this success.
Yeah.
Like, and so he would say there's a whole diamond ship of people waiting for you to overcome yourself. And that was like the only thing I was holding on to. And they weren't recommending me the hotline or nothing. They were just like, you need to build the business harder. And so I was so burnt out. I laid on the floor in my mom's basement for 3 days straight. And I woke up like once a day, and it was to read like 15 minutes from Who Moved My Cheese, because I just couldn't handle anything more complex than that. I was running on fumes. And then I would, what are the other cores? I would send a Kate being like, hey guys, I'm still alive. Love you, bye. And then I would call my former upline, Samantha, who would quit, and she was still in contact with me, but I would call her just to like bounce my story off of her. I'd share my story with her and be like, hey, do the whole spiel. I met a couple. And she would just sit and listen, because, she knew what I was going through. And so she was like, yeah, sure. Like, if you can't actually go out and talk to someone today, like, I'll be your person you can share your story with, so you can be core. So I literally woke up once a day to do the bare minimum in order to be core still. I'd listen to all my
Wow.
Kates, and then I would like eat something if my mom brought something down for me. Like my mom was the only reason I was like eating at this point, because I just didn't have anything left in me. So she'd bring me down like a vegan meal or a granola bar every now and again, being like, hey, are you okay? Have you eaten? Like, are you alive? And she was like so worried, but she didn't want to, say anything negative about the
Yeah.
business, just that I leave, because she knew I would freak out on her. So she was just like making sure I was alive and that I wasn't going to do anything drastic. The second she left the room, she was just coming and checking on me. And then I just slept for 3 days, besides those moments that I would wake up to be core. And I think that was like really the start of the breaking point, where it was just like a matter of time before I like just ran out of fuel and had to stop. Something had to give, you know?
Yeah.
And it couldn't be my music. So you do the math.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so heavy. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so sorry that that was something that you went through. And it's so but it's so valid. Like you are quite literally giving your entire being. Not only do you get to not be an individual, you can't go out and do the things you want. You probably can't worship the way that you want to. You are not sleeping, you're not eating. All your focus is on this business. And you went to your upline for help. You went to your upline for help. And instead of doing the responsible thing and being like, okay, this person is telling me, not in a joking way, they're telling me they want to actually end their life. They should have, like you said, given you the hotline. They should have been like, hey, you're going through something right now. I'm not qualified to have this conversation with you. I empathize. I'm here to listen, but I really think you should contact the professionals at the hotline. I really think that they can help you. You need to seek some therapy. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, they needed to have empathy with you and listen to you. And all they did was say, just go build your business, as if that's somehow going to help you, when that's quite literally what is actually killing you inside, is the fact that you're giving your all and it's not giving back. And that
Hmm.
is so like traumatic. And like, I'm so sad for you because I see it. And it's like when you run yourself ragged too, I'm sure you also just needed, your body was like, I need to sleep. Like, I
Yeah.
have to catch up on literally 2 years worth of no sleep.
Yeah.
And not only that, you're like, you're giving up your personhood as well. Like, did you even feel like Lavender anymore? Did you even feel like you could be you?
No, I didn't. And towards the end, I started like seeing this guy too, who's my ex now. But at the time, like we were seeing each other, and he was telling me, he was like, I don't even like, you're just an Amway robot. He was like, you have the same personality as everyone else in Amway, and it's just like really unattractive. Like, I feel like you have no individuality, you have no personality. And and like people would tell me that, and I was like, no, you just have a shit mindset. Next. But it's funny that you mentioned that they should be telling me to go to therapy at some point. So I had been going to therapy for the first like year and a half of being in business, and they they told me to stop going to therapy after a certain point because my therapist, I was like confiding in her about these things that I was feeling. I was like, I'm running on fumes. Like, yeah, I know that I need to do this. The weight of the world is on my shoulders. I have this responsibility. I have to save people. I have to save the world. I have to be a hero, but this is killing me. And I was just like confiding her about all this. And she straight up was like, this is not a positive organization. I don't like the way that your mentors are teaching you. This is, corrupt. This is, like not,
Yeah.
this is unhealthy. You need to set boundaries with them. Like they don't know what they're talking about. Like they shouldn't be telling you to sacrifice your health. That's really fucked up. And like, are you sure this is an organization you even want to be a part of? And she just got so real with me. She was like, that's not correct. They shouldn't be, motivating you by fear instead of by
Yeah.
these other things. And so I was like, ooh, I didn't like that. And so I talked to my mentors, and I was like, I'm thinking about ditching this therapist. I don't think she knows what she's talking about. And they were like, yeah, it's okay. She's never had to build a multi-million-dollar business before, so she doesn't understand the mindset that it takes because she's only ever been a therapist. So she knows the mindset it takes to be a therapist, but not a multi-million-dollar business owner. So, it's not her fault. She doesn't know what she doesn't know. But yeah, it's time to move on and let her go.
Holy shit. Like, okay. I always talk about how they treat mental health. Like, I have been down this road multiple times and I try to talk about it all the time. That's fucking dangerous
Yeah.
that you were told to stop going to a therapist because it didn't align with what they wanted you to do. That's
Yeah.
like your abuser telling you to stop going to therapy because your therapist is telling you you're in a dangerous situation. Like, the way that this organization acts is very, very similar to a domestic violence relationship. It's very manipulative, it's very psychologically damaging. And taking you out of therapy could have actually ended your life. Like, that is the severity of people going to therapy. It literally can be life or death. Mental health is so important, but to them, it doesn't matter. Like, all you need is us. We need the top, like, you need the toxic positivity. That's what you need. Like, everybody who's depressed, like, it's a choice. You can get out of that. It's a choice, but it's like, no, it's not a choice. It's not a choice. And they also, I don't know if this was your experience. I mean, based on the fact that they told you that you need to stop therapy, it sounds like maybe you may have heard something similar. But when I was involved, they were constantly shitting on medication. Like, this girl, one of the first things I heard from when she was a double eagle at my first huddle at a family reunion, she said that this business helped her get off her antidepressants. And I was like, how irresponsible of you. I mean, now I'm like, how irresponsible of you to tell people that, wow, this business, like it helps you get off your antidepressants. How bad? I think antidepressants are a fucking fantastic thing. We are very pro medication here. I'm medicated myself. Sometimes you just fucking need it. And some people use it forever, some people don't. It doesn't matter. People's journey with medication is their choice. And not only are we being taught to not go to therapy, they're not licensed therapists. There's
No.
no checks and balances in this organization to determine like what they told you was actually horrible. But of
Hmm.
course, they don't talk about that. And
No.
wow, wow,
Yeah.
I'm so sad for you because you really like you went you went through it with these people. Don't go to your therapist because wow. Well, jeez. That's
No.
insane. I am so sorry.
It's okay. I don't need like pity or anything like that. Like I went through what I went through, and like it was not okay what they did. It was like a domestic violence relationship. It was very toxic and very mentally and emotionally abusive. But like at the end of the day, if they weren't so horrible to me, I would either A, still be in it, or B, I would have left thinking, oh, that's a great organization. They're great people. I hope that they're successful. And I never would be, here with you sharing the story and letting people know about the danger. Like it made me who I am today, but it
Yeah.
also like could save someone else's life. So I'm not, like it happened, but
Yeah.
I'm not sad or upset about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you have that positivity, that vitality about it because you're right. I mean, like it's one of those like, well, I didn't go through this for nothing. Like you get
Yeah.
to share, you get to help other people. And I love that. And it's just so heavy to hear because there are really people who think this is the greatest organization in the world. And it's like we were there at one point too, but then it's like hopefully they hear something like this and understand that's not okay. That's horrendous. Like the amount of people I just wonder that actually went through with it, right? Because of the business. I will never know who made what decisions for themselves, but it does beg the question who has no longer family members as a result of this business. And oh my God, that's a whole nother fucking rabbit hole of how they even treat people who die. That rabbit hole and hearing stuff like that, that pissed me off. If you guys have not listened to already, please go back and listen. There's a couple of different episodes. The one that kind of sticks out to me most is Ashley. She had an upline who passed away and she was on a texting basis with the guy who talks really fast. I think you refer to them as TB and LB. They are your upline diamonds. Their
Yeah.
parents. She was on a texting basis with these people. She passed away. Nobody attended her funeral. And her family, she was a platinum going ruby, and her family still had to create a GoFundMe for her because she didn't have anything.
Oh my God.
And they didn't donate to it unless they did it anonymously. But if you know who it is, you go through her GoFundMe and nobody donated.
That's insane. Yeah, I know. I bet if I would have, like, I'm sure that where I was at the time, I would have been so positive that they would have all been there. But I mean, if I would have done it, like, no, like looking back, like J and K wouldn't have been there. Amber probably would have. Amber and Samantha for sure. They quit long before I did. They knew they were real. But everyone else, not even my cross line, not even my downline. I bet because I bet if they were under the influence of J and K and my upline, which they were, they wouldn't have been there. They would have been like, oh, we have a function that day, or I need to build my business. I don't have time to attend that. I'm sure they would have been coached in that way, and they would have been like, you know what, I'll just recruit 2 more people today in her honor instead. Like
Ah,
I have no doubt that's what they would be thinking or what they would be have been told.
yeah. Wow. And that's so sad. I mean, one, I'm so glad that you're still here with us
Yeah.
because the world needs a Lavender and her story and her music. Because you can say all blonde girls are like Taylor Swift. I disagree. I think everybody has a uniqueness about them. And I think that you have what it takes to do what you actually want to do. And you don't need these toxic ass people. But I'm so glad that you're here because there's so much, and there was guilt put on you too. Oh, but there's so many people waiting for you.
Yeah,
Oh
they give
God,
you a
these people
God
are
complex, especially
horrible.
they knew about my value and my dream of being a hero. Like they knew that that's what I felt my purpose was in life, and they preyed on that. Then against me, they were like, "Yeah, well, you want to be a hero, right? You don't want to fail as a hero." And they almost like distorted for a while my idea of what I even thought that was anymore. Like I kind of even lost sight of why I wanted to do that in the first place. And I was like, "Shit, is this what being a hero is? I don't like that. Like this isn't this isn't so far it hasn't helped anyone, and it's just been damaging me. Like what, when's it going to happen? When am I going to save people?" It was so crazy. They just like used my own values against me, and they like held them over my head, and they were like, "Well, you said your value is this, right? Are you going to follow through on that? Are you going to be accountable to that? Like are you who you say you are you going to do what you said you wanted to do?" Crazy. Fucking crazy. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on here.
Oh, absolutely you can. Yes,
Okay.
we do that here. The only word we can't say is the see you next Tuesday word.
Next
But
Tuesday.
yeah,
Oh.
holy my gosh. Yeah. Wow. And wow. I mean, I'm almost speechless because it's so heavy. And obviously, like I said, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're out.
Yes.
So
Woo.
after you've gone through this really challenging, like sleeping through days on end, just can't get up, can't be yourself. What was the final straw? Like what happened where you were like, no, fuck these people. I'm actually gone.
Gosh, I it might have been the music thing, honestly. I think like cuz I had gone back and forth for so long. Um yeah, they Jay asked me to give up my music. He was like, "You're being double-minded, and as long as you're giving creativity to this thing that makes you happy, that's creativity that, creative energy that you're not giving to your business." And I grappled with that for quite a while. And Jay personally, so Kay was my coach at this point because she's the girl. Jay wasn't even supposed to be really like sending me Kate's the way that Kay was, but there came a point where he was because he knew that I just really related with him and resonated with him and looked up to him a lot more than I did Kay because the women in these businesses have zero personality because they're just 100% submissive to their husband. So I didn't really relate to any of the women, unfortunately. I saw the ambition and the drive and the things that I see in myself in the men, especially Jay, because he was like, the person who was there, like talking to me directly. And so, um, like it got to the point where like he recognized that like I looked up to him and just revered him so much. So it got to the point where like he would send me Kate's like first thing in the morning, like, "Hey, just wanted to let you know that I woke up and my first thought was about you, and I just got this revelation from God saying that like you're gonna be the biggest influence this organization has ever seen. You're gonna go this crazy rank, and you're gonna like he basically was like, yeah, God told me that if you stay in this business, then you are going to be the most influential person in worldwide. Your story is going to save so many people, and like you're going to like change worldwide in a way that no one has ever seen before. You're going to be the most influential leader that we've ever seen." And so just know that my first thought was in regards to you in the morning, and I believe in you, and you can do that, and like they were doing
Yeah.
anything they could to keep me in, especially with how influential I had been because they had been, publicly praising me and talking about how perfect I was at this business for months now. And so they were like, "Shoot, if she leaves, then our credibility is gone, and they're gonna, she's we can't lose an influential person, especially since we've been talking so highly about her." Um, and I was just going back and forth. Like he told me to give up my music, and I should have just immediately left after that, but I didn't. I was like thinking about just weighing the options back and forth. Like, okay, if what are the odds that I go diamond? What are the odds that I get famous? Like what just kind of weighing out all the pros and cons, being like which one is more likely, like da 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 da, and then like being like, okay, well, and there was I really wanted to stay in because I was like, well, okay, I want to be friends with like Taylor Swift one day. I want to do a song with her, but like maybe I can't do that unless I go diamond, or like like well, who's the one sending me Kate's like that every day? Like Jay is in my back pocket, not Taylor Swift. Like just trying to
Yeah.
justify it. I wanted so badly to be proven wrong, and like, but I just kept getting more opportunities from people. Like people kept reaching out to me, being like, "Hey, my buddy and I are creating this TV show. It's kind of like America's Got Talent. We're keeping it on the hush hush, but in a couple years, it's going to be up and running. We want you to be involved. We can't say anything about it yet, but like, are you going to be available for that when the time comes? Like, would you be willing to travel for it and stuff like that?" And I was just like, can't, oh gosh, I don't know. Will I be available? Can I travel for it? Like, I just had to weigh those things out. And people were like, you know, my friend Matthew, who's now my roommate, at the time, he was in this band with the guy that I was dating at the time. And he was like, hey, we want you to open for us at one of our shows. And there was this point where he was like, yeah, do you want to come up on stage and sing one of our songs with us? And I did end up doing that. But, you know, like, there was just so much music, like, just the opportunities were coming and coming and coming. And I was like, okay, but I don't want to mess this up with this. But then, you know, but I don't want to stab my upline in the back. I've come so far. Do I want to throw this away? I grappled with it for so long. And then I think the actual breaking point that like was the decision maker. And again, the viewers might eat me up for this, but I follow this girl on YouTube, Aso Tarot, and she does like tarot readings basically on YouTube.
Okay, interesting.
And normally I don't believe in like those, you know, I used to not believe that you can do that from like a video, that like, you know, a video can resonate with that many people, or that you can get that person's energy just through like a screen. Like, I was like, no way, like, this is a scam. So I was really skeptical of her actually for a while, but then I kept watching her videos and she literally never got it wrong. Like, she would describe my life in like detail to the point where I'm like, are you
Wow.
stuck? And so I watched her, and obviously not everyone on YouTube is like that, but she is legit. And so I was like at work, it was at a different factory job, so I was just like putting bottles into boxes and stuff like that, and listening to YouTube. So her video came up on my recommended, and I felt drawn to click on it, and the pile that I chose was crazy. She was telling me like, it sounds like you're in some sort of like financial organization or some type of like opportunity, or you know, something along those lines. I don't know if it's a job, I don't know if it's a company, I don't know what it is, but it's something to do with your finances and your lifestyle, and it feels like your future seems really dependent on it. And you know, I think it's good that you're learning new things and that you're having this mindset, and you know, like you found, you know, you feel like you have a purpose. But girl, like, she got emotional during this reading too. She was like, I don't know you and I don't know what this is, but I'm really worried about you because I want you to know that, like, you know, your whole life doesn't have to be surrounded by this one thing. Like, you're allowed to have fun, you're allowed to hang out with friends, you're allowed to like fill up your own cup. And I feel like you're not letting yourself do that. I feel like this thing has become your entire life, and you need to know that, you know, your career and your future is important, but it's not supposed to be your entire life. Like, you are killing yourself right now. Like, you're running on fumes, and I can feel that you're not doing okay. And as much as it hurts to say this, it feels like it's time to let this thing go. And that's going to be scary to do, but like, you need to do what's best for you, and you know, take what resonates. But what I'm feeling is you need to let this go. And I was in shock when I listened to this. I was like at work, and I just started crying when I was listening to her, and I was like, oh my god, she's right. And I finally was just like, I have to do it. And so that's when I kind of started like formulating my plan of like how I was like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I want to go out in the right way. And so that's kind of when I started like that's kind of when I made the decision to finally pull the trigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool though. I mean, I am not by any means educated in that realm of things. I
Mhm.
do think that that's, you know, I believe you. I think that's amazing. And I think
Yeah.
that whatever you heard you needed to hear,
Yeah.
and this person spoke to you and like spoke actual life into you. And I
Mhm.
love that for you. Like,
Yeah.
if you guys are interested in these tarot card readings, like, it sounds like this would be a fantastic place to go look.
Mhm.
But wow. And it's like, again, it's like being in the right place at the right time, right? So again, the
Yeah.
crystals, they bring you full circle here. And it's incredible. Wow. I love that. And everything that this is being said is so true. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be your whole life, but they make you feel like it has to consume you. Otherwise, you won't be successful. And as we all know now, like, we need a balance. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay if you don't happen to write a song every single day, or you don't
Yeah.
have to Kate every single day. You don't have to be out like driving around at 2 a.m. as a single female trying to go to a 7-Eleven and
Yeah.
put yourself in danger
Huh. Yeah.
just to drop the message because you didn't
Yup.
do it that day. Like, that's
Yup.
never okay. Wow. So I'm so happy because this is what got you like out. And
Yeah.
I'm just so happy. And I just, it's so cool that it worked out that way. So how did you tell your upline that you were leaving, and what was their response to that?
Oh, this is the juiciest part. Okay.
I love it.
So this was also the most part, so if you can believe it, of this whole experience was leaving. So, God, and I was so in war with myself. I was like, I might regret this for the rest of my life, but I'm not doing good, and I can't know if I don't try. So I gotta, I'm gonna take this sign and I'm gonna run with it and hope that it's for the best. I'm just gonna put faith in the universe. And okay, so I wanted
Yeah.
to tell M and KT that like I wanted to tell them personally that I was leaving because they were my diamonds, and I really just didn't want everyone to hear it from J and K, because I knew that that's probably what was going to happen, because I had seen people leave before, and it's always from J and K. They always tell it, and they always tell it their way, and I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want people to think I just up and left and abandoned them, because that's how I felt when Amber left. Come to find out, J and K would not let her talk to any of us personally, but I didn't know that at
Of
the time.
course.
I just thought she was being selfish and just didn't want to like you have to like tell all of us. And so I was like, I don't want that to happen. Like, if I'm gonna leave, I want to go with grace, and I want to go with gratitude, and I want to let them know that like I'm not just abandoning them. It's not that I don't believe in the cause or the organization. It's not that I lost my dream. It's just that like like it's not like I'm making the decision like of where I want to go. Like, I know that I could be successful if I stayed, but I didn't want to be successful in this. Like, this, I looked ahead at where J and K were and where M and KT were, and I was like, they don't have the life that I want. And one of the very first things that J and K taught me when I got in was you need to look at people and their lifestyle and ask yourself, is that the life you want? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't be taking advice from them. That's one of the very first things
Yep.
they taught me. And I was like, as much as I love J and K with all of my heart, I don't want that life, and I don't want the diamond life, because it's not what I thought it was. And I'm looking, and none of my upline are going on trips. None of unless it's like something that Amway put on for them, but like they're not achieving their bucket list items. They're just building the business. Like that's
Yeah.
all they. I don't want to build the business for the rest of my life. I got in so that I could stop building at some point, but no one is doing that.
Yeah.
And so like but I don't want them to think that I don't that I don't believe in the dream and everything still. Like, I don't want their life, and so I want to find a different way to become successful. But I wanted to let them know that it wasn't for nothing, and I'm going to keep the mindset that they taught me, and I'm going to apply those success principles to something that I love so that I can be happy and successful. And I wanted them to
Yeah.
know I want to stay in touch, like I'm not just I'm not going to be a quitter. I'm not just going to up and leave out of nowhere and just like, be the enemy now, like everyone else seems to be. And that
Oh
I don't
yeah.
like them, and I'm not going to spread bad things about them. It's not that I don't believe in the organization. And that's where I was at. So I wanted them to like, I wanted to let them know in person, or as, as close to in person as I could get. And like, basically pour my soul out to them, just being like, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. You've changed my life, and I want you to know that I have no ill feelings against you guys. I just really need to follow my heart, and I hope that you understand. And so I called M and KT, specifically KT, because I had her number. And it was so crazy. I called her and I basically told her everything I just told you, that whole little spiel, but it was more, personalized and more heartfelt. And I just poured my soul onto her, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that I let you down, and I know that you were rooting for me. I know you thought I was going platinum this year, and I'm so sorry. But this is what I have to do, and this is why. And then KT was surprisingly very unemotional. She was just like, "Oh, are you done?" And I'm like, yeah, why?" And she's like, "Okay, well, here's where your mindset is off, okay? Listen." And then she just starts trying to give me like coaching, and I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Okay, sorry if I wasn't clear with what I was saying, KT. I have a coach and a mentor, and I know that you're really busy. If I need coaching and mentorship, if I need advice, I'm not gonna bother you. I know you're busy being a diamond and everything. Like, I'm gonna go to my personal coach and mentor for that. I wasn't asking for perspective or advice or anything like that. I was just letting you know that I'm leaving and that I love you. And I thought you should hear it from me, because I felt that was the honorable thing to do." And she goes, "Oh, okay. M wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay." And so she passes the phone to M. And again, I resonate with M way more than KT, because KT has zero personality. And so she
Sounds
passes it
like
to M.
it. Holy crap.
Yeah, dude. And so she passes it to M, and I was like, "M, hey, like, what's up?" Like, I was really excited to be talking to him, because I usually just, if I ever do hear from the Diamonds, it's usually KT, because she's the girl. And so I was like, "Hey," because M was one of my heroes. I felt so like loved and seen by him, and I just resonated with his story so much. And so I was really excited to get to talk to him, and I was like, maybe he'll understand because he seems more emotional than she does. She seems more like a robot, in my opinion. And so I was like, he'll understand. He'll know where I'm coming from, and he'll say I love you and all that good stuff. And he was just like, hey, and he basically did the same thing that KT did, and was like, so here's my perspective. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't need you to change my mind. That's not what this is. I'm just saying that I love you guys and I gotta go. And at this point, I was kind of like getting out of the zone. Like I was feeling less emotional. I was just kind of confused, and I was like, oh, like this conversation has gone on longer than I was intending for it to. So I was just like,
Yeah.
I gotta go, you guys, but I just wanted to let you know that I love you. And they were like, okay, yep, love you. And I was like, okay. And they were like, is that it? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, does J and K know? And I was like, no, I'm gonna tell them at the board plan tonight, because that was my plan. I had planned to there was a board plan that night, and it was combined with both teams that both of Jay's teams, which I was friends with tons of crossline on both teams, because like there was my team, but then I went to the extra board plans. And so I was like trying to formulate a way in my brain, like I want to go to the board plan and I want to like give letters to people to like let them know in my words, like that I'm leaving in a way that's not going to hurt their dream, but that's still going to let them know that, hey, I'm not abandoning you. I love you and you can do this. But I was trying to formulate a way, because I'm like, I'm probably not going to be allowed to go to the board plans once I'm out. So I'm like, how am I going to get, how am I going to show up to 2? Like maybe I can show up to 1, but how am I going to get the messages to both teams? But luckily, on that full moon, it happened to be, since it was the last board plan of the year, both teams happened to be combined for a board plan. So I was like, perfect. This is my chance to write these letters and give them to everybody and let everyone know, and not just the people on my team. And so, so I was like, no, I'm actually going to be telling J and K at the board plan tonight. And Em was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean what? And I was just like, my heart sank when his tone changed like that. I was like, oh no, he's not going to say something good. And he was like, no, you're not allowed to go to that board plan. You're not allowed to go to any board plans. You're not allowed to talk to anyone. Like if you must tell J and K, tell them over text or over the phone. And I was like, okay, but they're really busy and they keep their phones on silent all day. They're doing meetings and whatnot. And he's like, okay, well then just plan a time, schedule a time to get together after the board plan, or like a different day of the week, to tell them. And I'm like, no, they don't do that. Like, you don't understand. Like, that's something I would have to earn an incentive to do. Like, they don't let me just like meet up with them for not business purposes. But I knew I was gonna win this argument, so I just pretended like I was gonna do what he told me. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, good idea, Em. Thank you for the advice. And in my brain, I was like, fuck this guy. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm going to the board plan. My plan is not changing. Like, this is monumental. Like, I formulated this in the perfect way, and it came together in the perfect way. I'm not gonna just like adjust my plans because this guy who's not even my mentor anymore wants me to do things a certain way. I'm like, no, I'm not in the business.
Yeah.
I have to follow the rules. So I was like, okay, Em, thanks. And he was like, hey, cool, bye. And they just hung up, and it was so emotionless. There was no like, I love you, we're gonna miss you, we wish you the best. Nope. It was so cold. And so I was just kind of like, I didn't even cry after that. I was just kind of in shock. I was like, what just happened? Like, that's not the M that I know. That's not the KT that I know. I mean, it's kind of the KT that I know, but it's not the M that I know, right? And so I was like, okay, well, shoot, I'm on a time crunch now, because now, someone knows that, that I'm leaving. And before I hung up the phone with M, I told him, I was like, okay, well, I just really want to make sure that J and K hear it from me. So would you mind not telling them and let me tell them? And he was like, yeah, absolutely, I can respect that. And I was like, hey, thank you. But 2 seconds after I hung up the phone, I got a text from Jay being like, hey, on the phone with M and KT right now, wish you the best. And that was it. And I was like, first of all, that backstabbing little shit. Like, he just told me that he wouldn't tell Jay, and then he immediately went and told Jay. Also, Jay, why didn't Jay call me after he got, like, why didn't he just shoot me a text, Like, that's so, like, after all we've been through, why didn't he call me? Or, like, like, that's it? He's just gonna say goodbye over text? That's crazy to me. And so I was like, all right, I'm on a time crunch here. I'm on a real time crunch to figure out how I'm gonna do this, but I want everyone to hear it from me. Like, I'm not adjusting my plans right now. And so I told J and K in the group chat with them, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna swing by the board plan tonight and drop off a letter for you guys, and then I'm gonna be on my way. Kay liked it, so I was like, okay, there's no conflict here. They seem to be cool with it. Like, they both read hearted it. So I was like, okay, cool. They know I'm gonna be there, so we're good. And I was like, I originally had planned on telling my upline in person, or my downline and my upline in person. So I was gonna pull aside my like not sponsor, but like the sponsor of my sponsor who quit. Anyways, I was gonna tell him in person. He was my upline platinum, and then I was gonna tell my personal downline team. I had like 3 or 4 of them at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna tell them in person as well, because they deserve to know, and I want to give them a hug and everything. Like, I don't want to just be cold and tell them over text. But I was like, I'm not gonna have time to do that now. I'm gonna have to make a really quick appearance at that board plan and then dip out before J and K get there, basically. And so I went to the board plan, and as I was driving down there, I called all of my downline on the phone, and I basically told them everything I had planned to tell them in person, but I said it on the phone, and it was like more personalized. And I was like, hey, I wanted you to hear this from me. This is what's happening. This is why. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to, like, you don't need to know my reasons. I don't want to plant seeds of doubt in your brain because it's a personal thing. I want you to succeed, but I want you to know I'm not abandoning you. I love you. I'm always in your corner if you need anything, and I know you can go diamond. Like, don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Like, I'm still with you in spirit, and I know that J and K might say some things about me, but I want you to know that I would never want you to fail. I never want the worst for you. I only want the best for you, and that has not changed, and that will never change. And I
Yeah.
called them all, and I told them these things, and I told them, I was like, hey, I have like a letter for you. I spent a long time writing it. I'm just going to hand it to you at the board plan. I'm not going to be very long, and then I'm going to leave. And they were like, okay, thank you for telling us. They were really sweet about it. They were like, you know what? We trust you. Like, we know you. We know you're a good person. And if you, and I'm not going to try to talk you out of it, because I know you're intelligent. And if even someone as hardworking and hardcore about this as you is planning on leaving, then I know that you've been thinking about it for a long time, and I know that you have good reasons. And so I trust you. And I was like, thank you. And so I called them all, and told them, we kind of had that conversation. And then I got to the board plan, and mind you, I spent I wrote these letters over the course of like days, because I spent a couple hours on each individual one, because they were personalized. They weren't just like copied and pasted.
Oh.
And so, and obviously I didn't have enough time to write letters for everyone, because obviously there was a lot of cross-line people who I didn't know as well, and who I just didn't have much to say other than like, you got this. Like, we just didn't know each other as well. But to the people who I did know really, really well, I wrote like personalized letters for all of them. So I walked into the board plan, and I was so nervous, and I just started handing, and luckily this was like right after Christmas. And so I was like, I have an excuse to be handing out letters right now. So I just told everyone, this is a Christmas card. Hey, Merry Christmas. I made you a Christmas card. And everyone was like, sweet. Cause I did that the year before too. When I first got in, I made all my cross line
Yeah.
like Christmas cards. So it was just normal for me. And so, they were like, oh, that's so sweet. And they just, pocketed them and went about talking. And I remember giving like the biggest hugs, and like just the most sincere I love yous to everybody. There was this couple that was like, don't touch us, we have COVID. And I was like, get in here. I was like, I'm hugging you, I don't care. And I'm like, just giving all these out. And then I found my upline platinum, who I still wanted to tell in person. So I pulled him aside, and I was like, hey, can I talk to you? It's really important. He was like, yeah, sure. And I hate this man so much. He's such scum, and yeah, I hate him. Anyways, but he's so fake. He pulled me into this room, like off to the side, and was like, "Am I gonna need to sit down for this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably you're gonna need to sit down for it." And I basically gave him the spiel that I gave MNKT, like, I'm leaving. This is why, but I don't hate the organization. I haven't lost my dream. I love you guys. I want to stay in touch. I'm gonna be your customer. I'm not going anywhere. And this is, it's hard that I had to choose between two good things. I was kind of between a rock and a hard place, but at the end of the day, one of these things feeds my soul and the other doesn't. And I hope you understand, and I hope you can forgive me for letting you down. And he just didn't break his little facade at all. He was just like, oh, okay, cool. Well, just make sure to not get jaded, okay? And I was like, and in that exact voice, by the way, he does this stupid little showman voice all the time that drives me insane. And I was like, yeah, why would I get jaded? Like, I love you guys. I just told you, like, I'm going to be your customer. Like, what are you worried about? And he's like, well, a lot of people leave, and they say they're going to stay in touch, and, they just never do. And so I hope you do stay in touch. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not planning on not staying in touch. That's a weird thing to say, but okay. And then, my downline base found out that I was in that other room, so they came in and they like all brought little gifts for me, and they were like, they just looked so sad, and they all gave me hugs, and they were like, we wanted to say goodbye one more time before you go. And I was just having a really heartfelt moment with them, and I was like just telling them all that I'm so proud of them and that I love them so much and that I know they're going to do great things. And while I was talking to them, distracted, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that A was like typing away on his phone, and I was like, fuck, I know exactly what he's doing. He was texting Jay. And so A grabs my arm, pulls me to the side. He's like, hey, let's go outside and wait for J and K to get here, okay? And I was like, well, I still have one more letter to give out. I'm, you know, it's for A, we'll call her Augie. It's for Augie on my cross line. She's, you know, she's running late, so I haven't had a chance to give this to her yet. And he was like, oh, you're giving letters to everyone? Because I gave him a letter. And I was like, oh, frick. Like, as he said that, I was like, oh no, my plan's about to get, like intercepted right now. And I was like, yes, I am. But I'm not saying anything bad. I'm not saying anything that I didn't just say to you. Like, I'm not planting seeds of doubt. And he was like, yeah, well, you know, you might not have intended to plant seeds of doubt, but someone might take it that way. So I think it's better if you leave that to J and K. You should give that letter to them and let them handle it. And I was like, no, actually, you're not my upline anymore, so I don't think I will. And he was like, okay, I understand that, but, like, I really think you should leave it to J and K. And I was like, no. And he was like, all right, well, let's just go wait for them, okay? And I was like, whatever. So he kind of is like grabbing me by the arm. Like he has like not a firm grip on me yet, but like a decent enough grip that he's like trying to maintain control. And so he takes me outside and we're just talking and he's, you know, trying to distract me until they get here. He's like, so what are you going to do? You know, now that you're starting from rock bottom again, like what's the plan? And I was like, it just felt so condescending. Like he was trying to be friendly, but it was so backhanded. And I was just sitting
Yeah.
like processing everything. Like, what's going on? What does everyone know that I don't? Why are my upline acting so weird? Like, this is not who I know them as. They're not acting like themselves. Like, this is it. What do they know that I don't? I was just like trying to process like what was even going on because this is not the way I expected things would go at all. And then all of a sudden Augie pulls up in her car and I'm like, oh my gosh, there she is. I was like, I'm gonna go running past this, you know, letter to Augie. And he grabs my arm like tighter and he's like, no, I think that you should let J and K handle that. She's listening to a Kate right now. You should let her be. And I was like, Kate, I'll wait till she's done with her Kate. And then I just kind of like got out of his grip. I like ripped my arm away and I just sprinted to her car and I just stood outside of her like front seat until she was done listening to her Kate. I just sat there and waited. And then she got out and I like wiped away the tears and I was like, hey girlfriend. And I just like put on the little facade trying to act like nothing was wrong. I was like, I got you a Christmas card, you know, I just wanted to say I love you. And she's like, oh, you're so sweet. And we did our little hug and she goes inside. And then I was just like, okay, what is going on? I walk back over to A and he's just like trying to distract me with these things. And I'm like, at some point I just like break down. I just started crying. I was like, what's going on right now? And he was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about, pal? And he's like stroking my arm. And I'm like,
That's
what's
weird.
going on? Like you guys are acting so weird. Like why do you do this? And he was like, what do we do? What? And I'm like, well, you ostracize people when they quit. Why do you do that? Like I've watched you do this with every single person I've seen quit. And I thought, I believed you guys that they were the villains and they hated everyone. Why are you treating me like this? Why are you acting like I'm some outsider? Why are you trying to isolate me from the group? What is going on? Why are you, like, what are you going to say about me when you go back in that room after I'm gone? And he was like, well, nothing. If I wasn't your friend, I wouldn't be here listening to you right now. Like, we love you. Da 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 da. We're your friends. And he's like talking to me like I'm a baby. He's like talking to me like I'm a dog or a little kid. He's like talking to me with this like, oh, it's okay, sweetie. Like this condescending voice. And I'm just like, this isn't adding up. This is not adding up. Like, it felt like this is the way that I describe it to people. Like, have you seen the movie Coraline?
No.
Okay. Will you ever watch it?
Probably not, realistically.
Okay.
I just don't have a lot of time. So if you spoil it for me
Okay.
and everybody else, if you guys haven't seen this movie, go away. Don't,
Yeah.
you know, come
Yeah.
back in like 5 minutes. But no, I've seen like my off topic, but my cousin dressed her daughter up as that for Halloween. It was so cute. But realistically, I probably won't get to it. So
Okay.
I'm
So
excited to hear it.
if anyone hasn't seen this movie and they don't want it spoiled, skip ahead. But basically in this movie Coraline, so the girl Coraline, obviously she finds a little secret door in her house and it leads out to this other world that's exactly like her normal world except everything's better. her same mom and dad are there, except, they're more invested in spending time with her. They spoil her. They have a huge house and a beautiful garden and all the things that she loves, and they make her favorite foods for dinner every night, and like they just love bomb her so much. And she's like, oh, this is my community. This is so much better than the life I was living before. And so she keeps going in the little tunnel every night. After her parents go to sleep, she goes back to this other world that's identical to her world, except the only difference is the characters in this other world have buttons in their eyes, and they call themselves, oh well, we're your other mother and your other father. Everyone has an other mother and an other father. And but this world is just so much better than hers. And so, but every night she gets a little bit more sucked in, and it becomes harder to go back. And then finally, like, she, at the very end, there's this big reveal where it was all fake, and the other mother is, actually this like crazy spider lady, and she like morphs into who she actually is, and then she like reveals the other world for what it is. And like after she takes like the glamour off of it or whatever, like the magic that she's put on it, it's like all rotting and twisted and fake, and like all of her other friends are like not real. They're like little minions of hers. Like it's just this crazy, corrupted, like icky world. And it's like she just watched this beautiful thing that she thought she found like transform into what it actually was underneath. And like the other mother was not who she thought she was. And so she was like, oh my gosh, I've been a victim, I've been preyed upon, and now they don't want me to leave. And so that's how it felt in this moment as I was talking to A. It felt like a villain reveal where it was like I just watched this entire beautiful, colorful world that I'd fallen in love with and thought was so much better than my normal life reveal itself into what it actually was. And it was this rotten, twisted thing that had been kept from me this entire time. And my upline, who was standing in front of me right now, was not who I thought he was. It was like a villain reveal scene. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And it just was all hitting me. And then Jay and Kay pull up in their car. Or first Jay called me after I went and gave the letter to Augie, because A started texting him again. And Jay called me and was like, hey, so I understand that M told you to not go to the board plan tonight, and I understand that you went anyway. And I was like, yeah, I did. And he was like, and I understand that you're giving out cards to people. And I was like, yeah, I did. But, like, again, like I told A, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't hate you guys. Like, I'm just telling everyone that I love them. I want them to hear it from me that I'm leaving, and I'm not saying anything else. And he goes, ugh, I'll be there in a second. And he hangs up. So while A is distracting me, and this is all unraveling for me, J and K pull up in their car. And they get out, and Jay looks freaking pissed. He looks like he wants to kill me. He gets out of that car, and he just like kind of like shoves past me, and I'm like, hey, Jay, I have this card for you and Kay. I spent a long time writing it, and I did. I spent like 2 hours on just their one card. It was like 3 pages front and back.
Wow.
And I poured my soul into this thing, and I was like, here, this is for you. I want to say that I love you, and I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me. And I just hold it out to him, and he just stares at me with this cold, like, are you serious look on his face. And he's carrying a lot of stuff, so I get why he's like, like he would have to put something down. He would have to go out of his way to grab it. But like, it's important to me. Like, he was just looking at me, like waiting for me to take it away or something. He was just looking at me like, really? And just like waiting for something to happen. I don't know what. And then finally he goes, ugh. And then he sets down some of his stuff, like yanks it out of my hand, picks his stuff back up, and then like marches back inside the board plan room. And I'm just like, wow, okay. And I'm like trying to keep my composure. And then I run up to Kay, who's still getting some stuff out of the car. And I'm like, hey, Kay, I just wanted to tell you that I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me. And I was like, this is my coach. This is who I've been directly catering to. She's got it. She knows me. She'll understand. And when she looked at me, there was a tiny, tiny bit of emotion in her eye, but not really enough. Like, it was like the tiniest little fleck, if that's a word, of emotion. But the rest was like just as dead and cold as Jay's eyes. And I was just like, I love you so much. Thank you for everything. And she goes, yep, love you. And kind of like avoids eye contact, and then just like walks past me. And that was it. And I was like, that was my goodbye. Wow. And so I just stand there for a minute, and I'm like, I need to leave. And so I just start like going to my car, and I was going to call Samantha because she was telling me, she was like, I'm on standby if you need me, girl. I've been through this. And so then A starts kind of following me out to my car, and he's like, hey, wait, where's my hug? And I'm like, where's your hug? I'm like, you little, like I was so mad. So I was like, fine, so that you'll leave me alone. I like walked up to him and did like a little, and then just like marched off to my car. I was like, get away from me, you're icky, you make me so uncomfortable. And so I went to my car and I called Samantha and I just started bawling. I was like, this is what they did to me, and this is what they said to me, and they don't love me, and they aren't who they said they were, and I'm so sorry that I treated you this way when you left and when Amber left. Like, it just was all hitting me at once, and the full picture was like being revealed, and I was like, I was so awful when you guys left. I did to you what they did to me, and I didn't realize, and I was just like, I was just ranting and just sobbing, and she was like, it's okay, girlfriend, like, I get it. I was there. I knew that was gonna happen. The same thing happened to Amber when she quit, and like, it's okay, like, it's a doozy, but once, you'll eventually wrap your mind around it. And I'm like, oh my god. And it was just this crazy, like, wow. And then later I found out so I reconnected with a friend who I had cut off when I was in Worldwide because she was anti-Amway. Her brother was one of my crossline cousins who was in that meeting the night that I quit. And I asked her about it. I was like, yeah, I don't know if he even read my letter, but I gave your brother a letter that night. And she was like, yeah, I actually heard about that. And I was like, oh, do tell. And so basically what she told me, what allegedly happened that day after I left, Jay gave this huge speech about how I'm a dream killer and I'm awful, and I was giving out these letters to take everyone out with me, and I was planting seeds of doubt, and it's okay if it's your choice if you want to open that letter or not, but just it just depends on how much your family's legacy means to you, and if how much you want to retire your mom and dad. It's up to you. You can risk it, but just know that like your whole fate could depend on whether or not you open this letter. And then he said, me personally, I'm not going to risk it. And then he conveniently had a paper shredder handy, and he stuck his letter without opening it straight into the paper shredder and advised everyone else to do the same. And I have no idea how many of them shredded their letters and how many of them kept them, or if the ones who kept them ever opened them. But considering none of those people have reached out to me since, I'm guessing that they all shredded them. But that's basically what happened while I left. And yeah, so that's how that happened.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a fucking lot.
Yeah. It is.
First of all, what a way to go out, though. I mean, truthfully, like, you went down like an actual fucking hero. I hope that people read those letters, at the very least took a peek, because at the very least they would know. And maybe, oh, what happened?
I don't know. We're back.
It's insane. Like, this is crazy to me. I do not understand. Holy shit. Yeah, that's a lot. Wow. Like I said, fantastic. Love that you went down that way. I cannot tell you enough. That's a fucking great thing, because you scared them.
Yeah.
You scared them so much that they had to like do damage control straight away, despite the fact that you're just being a fucking good person. I'm so sorry, but like, they're terrified of you. And you're probably like, I'm like the least threatening person ever, because you really are. You're like, you're so cute. And I'm just envisioning, and the guy, you're A, dude, fuck A. Don't ever put your fucking hands on somebody and try to physically fucking stop them. Dude, the fucking audacity, fuck you, A. So much. But the fact that like your upline, I hope that even if they haven't reached out to you, that even somebody took that as like a really big ick. I hope to God somebody was like, oh no, this is bad. Like, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, we really liked this person. Like, I guarantee you, at least one person got the ick from that. They had to have. And he had a paper shredder just right fucking there. To shred. That's some dramatic shit. If you are so easily convinced by a letter that all it says is like, thank you, like, I appreciate your time, just like giving them the best, that goes to show that they aren't convicted in what they do. They know how fucked up it is.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's so
what
ironic.
A fucking journey.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's ironic because if it weren't for them outing themselves like that, like, and having it be that dramatic, like, I never would have known how fucked up the organization was. I would have left on good terms, being like, they're amazing. I would have probably still been buying the products. I would have, if any IBO ever tried to recruit me, I'd be like, I did that thing, but like, good for you. Keep doing it. Stay in it. It's good for you. Go dine it. But like, because they reacted that way, it bit them in the butt because now I'm an anti-MLM activist on YouTube.
We live for it.
Like,
We
what?
love that. Oh my God. See, and that's the thing. They thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah,
But the funny
no.
part is they did that with maybe what? 10 letters. Let's say 10.
Yeah,
You
sure.
are going to reach so many more people this way than
Mm-hmm.
those letters would have caused people to leave.
The
So
letters? Sorry.
I'm so excited.
The letters are
That's
actually
crazy.
on YouTube. After I made my first Amway video and I saw how many people it reached, I was like, shit, I can maybe still get these letters to reach people. And so the next video that I made after that, it didn't get as big of a reach, but I think my fingers crossed is that they'll still cross the right people, right? It'll find the right people. But I still had them. So I wrote all the letters out on a Google Doc so I could like proofread them because I spent days working on this. So I wanted to make sure I like had it and it was nice for when I printed it out and gave it to everybody. So I still have them saved in my Google Docs. So I read them all on YouTube. So they're out there for people to see exactly what I said. And people can, I mean,
Wow.
the audience can judge. Did I say something bad? Did I kill someone's dream? I don't think so.
Oh my God. I'm totally going to link that video on my story
Hell
after we're
yeah.
done because
Okay, good.
I have to go watch it. Oh my God. You're a badass. Like, I don't understand how, like, these people could take what you were doing. The most generous fucking thing that you were like, you loved these people with like your entire soul. Like, and all they did was, oh, okay, that's it. Like, it's the lack of compassion. It's we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna travel the beaches of the world one day, and then you're a total stranger or enemy number one, like the next day. There's no
Yeah.
in between.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So after this event, right? You left after all of this. What happens afterwards? How do you process this? And how long after this point did you wait and make your first video and decide I need to tell this story?
Gosh, I don't even. When was that video? I mean, I waited a long time. Um, it wasn't until like I want to say October was when I made that video. So it had been almost an entire year since I had been out. And because one of the things that I was pursuing before Worldwide was YouTube. I've been pursuing YouTube on and off since high school. Like I've spent years doing like just trying to do YouTube and it never went anywhere. And I was like, you know what? Like that was something that I was passionate about. And so like even if it doesn't go anywhere again, like I at least want to get back into that as a hobby now that I have the time and now that I'm allowed to because I'm out of Worldwide. And that was one of the topics that I wanted to cover on my channel. I didn't think it would end up, morphing into that's what my entire channel is because I originally had like lifestyle stuff and like like veganism and like all sorts of things. Like it was just like an eclectic like my channel. And then it ended up becoming more of a bigger thing because of this. But yeah, I waited a while to make that video because I was making other videos and I just had been putting off talking about it because I didn't even know how. I was like, where do I begin? Like, how do I even break down this story in a way that people would even understand it? Like, I tried to script it several times to try to like break it down to make it more digestible. And every time I sat down to script it, I was like, no, because then I left out this and this. And, like, there was just so many layers. It was so multifaceted that I just like couldn't like contain it all in like a script. And so I was like, shoot, I'm never gonna make this video. I just have to like full send it. I just have to raw dog it. And so
Yeah.
I did. I just got out the camera and it was really bad quality. It was like horrible lighting at like a random hour of the night. And I was like, guys, I have to tell you this story. It's really important. And then I just kind of like spitballed it. And it was so over edited because of like it was so all over the place. Like I kept tripping over my words and like there were points where there was just like minutes of just awkward silence because I was like trying to figure out like how to even word what I was trying to say. And there were times where I would just like cry for 20 minutes and I like like so it was so like jumpy and like over edited because it was a mess. Like it was not a clean video. And I was still like figuring out how to like make a YouTube video. And so it was just a really
Yeah.
weird topic to make one of my early videos about. But yeah, it was a while before I finally was like, I just need to full send it.
Wow. I get it though. You're right. I could totally see how that last moment was probably more traumatizing
Yeah.
than a lot of it. That's a lot to happen in one fucking night, and they really made it some big fucking thing. And they didn't have
Yeah.
to. They could
No.
have. They could have just let it go. If they had said
Yeah.
nothing, nobody would have taken your letter as I should probably leave too. Because again,
No.
how easily are these people influenced, right? If you
Yeah.
have a hold on them, then this letter would be nothing more than a validation to stay. But no, they
Yeah.
had to go make a big fucking spectacle of themselves and really just be crazy.
Yeah, I would have left
Wow.
peacefully. Like my intention was to leave peacefully. I wanted to leave gracefully and assure everyone that nothing was wrong. Like that's what the letters were for, was to assure everyone, "Hey, nothing's wrong. You don't need to go digging for more information. Like I'm not leaving because there's something wrong with this organization. I don't want you to fail, you know?" It was if anything, it was my way of telling them to stay in. Like, "Hey, just cuz I left doesn't mean you have to go abandon your dreams if that's what this is for you." You know? Like it was
Well,
like supposed to be reassuring.
yeah.
Whew. Crazy.
Yeah. Holy
Crazy.
shit. That is fucking crazy. But wow. Okay. Holy shit. I love though that you because I feel like we all go through a journey when we're telling our story, right? Like
Yeah.
it does at first. It feels like you have to, like you said, you feel like you have to script it and like you have to kind of like condense it down and like water it down. And like there's no correct way to do it. And I love that you were just like, fuck it, I got to do it. And you did it.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten all the way through your first video, but just watching you tell your story every single time I can see the passion. I can hear it in your voice. Like you really loved these people. And they did you so wrong. Just like, I mean, they do everybody, but it's like you don't think it's gonna be you. Like you see it happen to other people, and it's like, well, they must have done something. Like, oh, they must have said something
Mhm.
or done something or cross line or broke the cardinal rules or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's because they know they're not gonna make money off of us anymore.
Yeah.
And wow. So
And
through
it's
this time between when you left and then October and when you decided that you were gonna make your video,
uh-huh.
what did like when did you find out all of the various things that were actually going on? When did you find out like the tools money and all of the things behind the scenes that they don't tell us about while we're involved?
So I learned about the tools money pretty shortly after I left. I didn't learn that you were the first person that made me aware that platinums were getting that money. I was under the impression
Oh,
it was just the diamonds. So yeah, so there's still like stuff that I'm learning, but I learned about like the tools scam pretty shortly after I left because after they reacted that way to me and acted like they were hiding something and I had figured it out, um, I was like, well, what are they hiding then? Now I do want to figure it out. And so I just started Googling all the stuff they told us to not Google. And I started researching cults and I started researching scams and pyramid schemes and other MLMs and other people's Amway experiences. And one of the first resources I found was the Tools Scam documentary that's on YouTube. So I watched that all the way through. And then I watched a bunch of people's Amway testimonials and a lot of cult videos, and I was like, whoa, it is a cult. The people I was trying to recruit were right. So
yeah.
yeah, I figured it all out pretty shortly after because I was like, wait, now I'm curious and skeptical, and now I want to do my research.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's really the stories of other people. I feel like are the
Mhm.
most impactful
Yeah.
because I feel like we can read something. But it's different when you hear somebody's raw emotion and like see what
Hmm.
they're saying, like whether it's a video or a podcast episode or whatever it happens to be. Like
Yeah.
there's actual truth in what we're saying that we really went through hell with these people. And
Hmm.
because of people like you sharing your story, they have to continue being more and more diligent about telling people, don't Google it. Those are haters. Like anybody who like, have you had a bad experience with us so far? No, like that's
Yeah.
what they have to do.
Or like they'll tell you like, oh well, they were just with the wrong people. Like they had a bad upline.
Yeah.
But like, no, it's people who say that. If you think that and you're watching this or listening to this, every upline is like that. Your upline is not the exception. I know they look like a good person on the outside because they're really, really good at that, but your upline is not the exception. And the second you're the one leaving, it's going to be you. So,
Yeah,
yeah, putting
that's
that out
true.
there.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? You actually make a really good point is there. So I follow a couple of people who are still involved who are my cross line
Hmm.
and I do because I just wanted them to see me. But there's this couple specifically, and I mention this person all the time, so I might be repeating myself to you, but if you guys don't know and you guys haven't heard me talk about this, there's a girl specifically that she was such a ray of sunshine. Of course, I don't fucking know her, right? Like
Yeah.
when you leave, I feel like you start to realize I didn't actually know these people. We know surface level, bare minimum information, but
Mhm.
I don't know. She just exuded fucking happiness. And she gave up an opportunity with NASA for Amway because that is how good of an opportunity they presented this to her. And she's still involved. So I follow her and her husband, and they're like welcoming in their second child, and they posted incentive photos with the previous platinums that were also my platinums. And I'm looking at these photos. And on the outside, if you don't know, you think, oh my gosh, that looks so fun. They're having an ugly Christmas sweater party. Like they're dancing
Yeah.
around. They're having a good time. It looks like these are innocent people just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
But when you know what's going on behind the scenes, you know why they have to put on that facade because they have to overly show how quote happy they are. And I've
Yeah.
noticed that and of course this is not everybody, but I've noticed that when people need to try to convince themselves that what they're doing in their life is going really well, they overly post on social media to make it look as though they are glamorous living the best life when in all
Yeah.
reality like they're genuinely struggling inside. And I
Yeah.
refuse to believe that since they've been in for like 6 years now, I would imagine 5 or 6. They got in like halfway through my 3 years. And it's like, okay, there's no way they're not struggling. And that is the thing that I think also is that these people look like everyday people. They look like people who want to become your best friends.
Mhm.
And they're going to find you in your crystal, I was going to say crystal rock. That sounds like math. In your rock shop where you're working, right? They're going to find you at the grocery store. They're going to attach themselves to you in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. And unless you know what to look for, you may become friends with the person who brings you into a cult and takes like 3, 5, 10 years of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. This has been a wild roller coaster.
Oh
It's
yeah.
been almost 2 hours too. Like your story is intense and I'm here for it. Like I love the fact that you can speak so openly and so like just candidly about your experience. And just kind of to wrap things up here, like what has life been like now? I know that you're pursuing singing, you're promoting your social media, like you're doing the thing. What
Mhm.
is life like now? And I know we talked about that briefly in the beginning, but like how is it? How is the freedom, the actual freedom?
I love it. It's like a breath of fresh air. I mean, I have a job that I'm allowed to have and I'm allowed to like, and I don't feel this weird pressure to like that it's like an antagonist. I'm allowed to enjoy my job. Amazing coworkers, amazing management. The pay is really amazing. I'm working at a dealership and there's like so much growth opportunity. I'm like making more money than I ever have, and it's like not in a job that makes me want to die, which I love. And then I'm living in a really nice apartment with two of my good friends who just got engaged, and I'm about to be moving into another nice apartment with a different friend of mine. So like I have loved ones around me. Like I'm learning how to like make friends again. Like it's a slow process. I've been a little bit of like a hermit and an introvert because I do have a lot of social anxiety like post Amway. But like the other day, like at election day, I was at the polls and I ended up having a conversation with this random old man in front of me, and it was like the first conversation I had with a stranger since leaving Amway that didn't feel terrifying. Like it felt natural and normal. It's like I'm learning how to like be social and like be myself again and like be my happy social self without feeling like terrified of talking to other people now. Like my YouTube channel is doing really well, which it wasn't like pre Amway and it wasn't during Amway. Like now that I'm actually able to like pour that creative energy into that, it's doing really well. I've started, working on producing my album again. So like, there's gonna be new songs that I have coming out. Like everything's just going my way. Like I have extra money to do things that I like. So like I'll, do things like go out to dinner with my friends or go to the movies. I'm going to go see Sonic 3 tonight, which was actually what kept me alive during during that period I told you about and where I was suicidal in Worldwide. I was really into Sonic 2 when it came out. It came out like right when I joined Amway, and I didn't want to die until I had seen Sonic 3, which, as cheesy as that sounds, like today's a really big day for me to go see that because like it's a big milestone to say that I made it. I did that. I'm alive. That was on my dream wall when I was in Amway. So it's like definitely more than just a movie for me.
Yeah.
So I've got that going on, and then I was gonna say something else too. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I started doing martial arts again, which I quit a while back. And I'm finally getting back into it, which is something that I've been really passionate about too. And so that's going to help me with future goals as well, because I have a dream to go to the Shaolin Temple in China and train with the warrior monks, but it's very intense. So I want to have a few black belts under my belt first. So I've started that process of like taking care of my body again, exercising. I buy groceries now. Like I eat fruits and vegetables. Like I cook meals that, like, you know, aren't granola bars. They aren't meal bars. Like I can take care of myself now. I'm drinking water and I'm taking supplements that aren't Amway, like they're actually benefiting me. And so I've just been a lot happier and healthier, and I'm like starting to feel like myself again, which has been amazing. And it's a process, right? It's only been a year since I've been out, but like my life now is so much more fulfilling and lovely, and just like I have so much gratitude. And like the things that I'm working for actually are like here in front of me. Like I put in the work and I actually get the result, instead of just hoping that like one day in 5 years maybe I'll have the result if I put in the work. No, it's like
Yeah.
cause and effect. I put in the work and I get the result, and it's very cool to like see that now, and it gives me more hope to like that I can actually accomplish my dreams, and maybe my music or my YouTube channel can go somewhere. And even if it doesn't, even if I don't become the next Taylor Swift, at least maybe my song lyrics or my YouTube videos will help somebody, even if it's just one person that feels less alone. Like that's what I want. And so like everything, like I'm seeing all my dreams slowly like start to come into fruition, and it's been really incredible, and I do not regret leaving for even a second. Like leaving Worldwide and Amway was the best decision I have ever made for myself, and my life has done nothing but go upward since then.
Wow. See the crystals. The
The
crystals
crystal.
brought you full circle. And
Woo!
I think that's incredible. I love that you get to be Lavendar. You get to be you. And
Yay!
I'm also one of those people who like music saved my life. Music is
Yeah.
literally the only reason I am here today. Like I'm one of those
Mhm.
weirdos. I'm so sorry. I love the except for genre. I'm a country music fan. I'm so sorry. But if it wasn't for the specific artist that I am very passionate about, I would not be here. So I am one of those people who like music is healing because music is a
Yeah.
story. Music is everything. And I love the fact that you can actually help people through that, through your creativity, whatever it is that
Mhm.
you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And they don't get to tell you no. Nobody's going to tell you no anymore. No one's going to make you feel like, oh, you can't do this because of the plan that happens tomorrow, or your upline's going to fucking grab you and tell you you can't do something. So,
Yeah.
holy crap.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you enough just how inspired I am from hearing your story, because it's incredible to see. And this is also proof, you guys, if you guys are here and you're listening and maybe you're still involved, maybe you just left, maybe you're still questioning everything. Life on the other side really is better. Like they'll always tell you, oh, quit to what? Like it's going to be bad. Nobody who leaves has a good life. That's bullshit. That's not true.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even though you will still have hardships, that's life, right? It's not going to be the same hardships that Amway put you through. And wow, holy shit. I cannot thank you enough for all of your time, for your willingness to be so vulnerable and share your story and share yourself. And so now I have to ask, where can people follow you and your journey, your music, all the things?
Ooh, okay. So I actually have my one YouTube channel has morphed into three in the last couple of months. So if you want more anti MLM content and want to follow me on my Amway journey, and or like my ex Amway journey, I guess, of like like me telling my story to me, I guess, I don't know, just the whole thing, like the before and after. My YouTube channel is Rainy Fairy. I'm sure there we can link it in the description. And then if you want to know about my music and you want to follow my music, I'm currently on SoundCloud, and I have a separate YouTube channel for just my music. So I'll pass you the links for those as well. I will be on Spotify starting in 2025. So sometime in the like January or February, I'll probably be on Spotify as well. So I have one song out at the moment, working on my second one right now. And then I have a a second YouTube channel aside from like my Amway YouTube channel, and that one is just if you want to follow me in my life, like my lifestyle, my journey with Wicca, my why I went vegan, you know, like travel vlogs, things that I do just in my normal life. If you want to get to know me outside of the anti-MLM content, I have a channel for that as well. It's Rainy Fairy 222, and then my music channel is Rainy Fairy Music. So yeah, I'm Rainy Fairy on everything. So you can find me on Instagram or X or whatever and reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk to people who have been in the business and want to know more or just want to connect and not feel like they're alone. I got you.
Yeah. Yep. We will absolutely get it out there and share your information with the world because I think that, and it's crazy. And I say this all the time, and it's such an Amway thing. So I'm so sorry if it's triggering, but everybody perceives things differently. And you might like, I think that people hear something different from each individual person. Like they used to say that, like, oh, you never know which leader you're going to actually get something from. I actually mean it. Like, you know, people hear things and they hear it from somebody. And I really do think that somebody out there is really going to benefit from everything that you are doing. And I I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for showing people that life after Amway is so rewarding. And if you guys are out there and you guys want to be like Lavendar and you want to come and share your story, please feel free to DM me on Instagram at exesandt.podcast, or you can send me an email at dani@exesandtpodcast.com. You guys can catch me. This one's going to be on YouTube, but you can also catch me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, everywhere else that podcasts are heard. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much again, Lavendar.
Thank you.